Hello everyone, it's time for Madison's opinion. Hey guys, what's up, what's happening? It's Madison, and today we are going to be talking about the thing that just ended called Rent Live. Although it wasn't really live anymore. Rent half live. Rent on Fox. That thing that was on TV that we were all kind of skittish about before it even happened. And this is a video about 5 things that I hated about Rent Live, and then maybe some bonus ones that were things that I did like, so we can spread some positivity because I don't want to be completely negative because you know that that's not me. So anyway, let's just get into this video. Number 5. One of the things that really consistently bothered me was some of the blocking. Some of it made complete and utter just no sense. None of it made sense. I mean, some of it made sense. But some of the blocking was just like at the end when Maureen was over off to the side and she's saying, "Her fever's breaking." She wasn't anywhere near Mimi. How would you know? As a person who knows Rent really well, it just kind of bothered me. And there were a couple of other places where it was like the same situation like that, where the blocking just didn't make sense for what was being said or being sung or whatever the situation was, and I was like, who blocked this? Number 4 was definitely the unnecessary lyric changes and some of the unnecessary exposition. So there were a lot of times where they would have Mark kind of give more exposition than there ever is given in the show or even in the movie. And I know Mark is narrator, the unreliable narrator, but it just seemed a little excessive. But and I find it hard to look at it from an I'm a new audience member standpoint rather than I am a diehard Rent fan standpoint. But I was like, when I first watched the movie, I totally understood where everybody was and what was happening, so I felt like it was very unnecessary exposition. And then coupling that with unnecessary lyric changes. So especially like in the beginning, like, okay, I get some of that, but they cut out the entire beginning monologue. And just throughout the whole thing, there were just things that didn't need to be changed, but there were. And not to mention, they left out the iconic line, "Zoom in on my empty wallet." They left that out. Number 3 was definitely choreography changes. Now, obviously, this is a new retelling of the story, but and there were moments where the choreography was cool. It was genuinely really cool and really nice, but I was missing some of the very iconic moves and some of the iconic moments. And I understand in this kind of retelling that some of it wouldn't have made sense, like the choreography and the blocking of Without You with the 3 metal tables that they do on stage. Typically, it was a thing that I missed. I did like that they had an homage to it, and I understand that it wouldn't make sense in this live version. But then there were things like the La Vie Boheme, like the beginning sequence where they're all at the table. I was missing some of the like iconic moves that they do, like the or the, you know, I was missing some of that. And while what Sonia Taya did was really cool there, I did really want those callbacks as a diehard, as a Rent head. Number 2 is definitely probably, I keep saying that, definitely probably, it just is how the cast kind of lacked a coherent chemistry. It seemed like everybody was sort of separated, save for Collins and Angel, because Brandon and Valentina did very well, but it's really hard to mess up the chemistry for Collins and Angel because they're such an iconic couple. Not to mention that those two did really well, and I will have more to say on that later. But the whole cast, just as a whole, the cohesion wasn't there for me, and I wasn't feeling the bond that I've felt before with other casts. And that might be a personal thing. Maybe you thought that they all bonded really well together. But me personally, I felt like it was kind of lacking any emotional connection, which made it harder for me to believe that the story that they were telling me. And number 1, I might get some people to go in my head about this, but number one, my most hated thing about Rent Live was Brendan Hunt's portrayal of Roger. I'm gonna get killed. As a person whose favorite character is Roger, not because I'm like, ooh, ooh, baby, but like, because he's a deeper kind of, I don't know, Roger's my favorite character, okay? And I take him really personally, I take it kind of personally. I shouldn't, but I do, you know? Because Roger was one of, like, my first musical theater characters that I was really like, wow, this is a well-written character. But anyway, Brandon's portrayal felt like it lacked understanding of Roger as a character. I didn't like the way it was sung. I didn't like the way and this isn't his fault, but I didn't like the way he was styled because the pants weren't tight enough. The pants weren't tight enough. The boots were great. It was just, and I couldn't vibe with him. And this ties into the number two, but he didn't have any chemistry with Mimi, with Tanashi, and I just, he was too pretty. He was too pretty. He was too much of a pretty boy. My friend Haley put it best. Brennan's Roger wasn't in it for the music, he was in it for the bitches. And I was like, you know what, you're right. And so, that was my least favorite thing, and it just, the whole time I was trying really hard to keep an open mind about it, because usually that's what I do as a person, and I was just like totally let down by this entire production. I've seen Rent done way better. The best I've seen Rent done by any cast was the first leg touring cast of the 20th anniversary tour. Of course, that's out of the performances that I've seen of Rent, but I've seen many, and those people were the best, honestly, like straight up. And honestly, I think Rent was not a good choice for a live musical. They should have stuck to family-friendly content, because Rent is something that they shouldn't have messed with. From the get-go, when they announced this, I think they announced it like 2 years ago. So they've been planning this, and honestly, the whole thing felt like a rush job. Like, it felt like they just weren't genuine, and I don't know, that's just what really it just bothers me. Like, it just doesn't feel right. So yeah. And now on to the 5 good things about Rent Live. Number 5, Vanessa Hudgens. Great. She was a wonderful Maureen. I really felt it. I was like, this was a good choice, because I remember watching clips of her being Mimi at the Hollywood Bowl, and I hated it. I hated her Mimi. Maureen, though, perfect choice. I think she pulled it off very well, and I was super pleased. Number 4 good thing about Rent Live was Kiala Settle. That woman is so wonderful and so talented, and I'm so glad that she was a part of this, even though I'm sad that this thing was a thing in the first place, but I'm glad that they got her to be in it, because she definitely made it a little better. The number 3 thing was that all of the callbacks to Jonathan Larson quotes, and whenever they would show like a text on screen, I thought that was a really nice homage to him and to the AIDS crisis, and I thought, and especially the part before life support. I just thought it was a very nice touch to add those things in memory of Jonathan and of all the people who have suffered from AIDS and have died from AIDS, especially during that time. It was crazy, and it's a very big part of LGBT history, and I'm really glad that they acknowledged that on live television. I mean, at that time, like, you know, Reagan wouldn't even acknowledge AIDS existed for a really long time. I mean, so that really meant a lot, and I was really happy that that happened. The second thing was Brandon Victor Dixon's rendition of I'll Cover You reprise. That was so beautiful. He is a wonderful actor, and that was the one wow moment that I had during the entire thing, was just, that blew me away. because everything else had been such a letdown up to that point. And then he started to sing, and Haley and I were just like, where has this been the entire show? But it was just so wonderful, and honestly, I wish the whole show had been on par with that. And then the number one good thing about Rent Live was, of course, the end, because it was over. I'm kidding, it was the end because the original cast appeared. And I was so ecstatic. I took a wild Snapchat video of me going, look, it's my parents. And then there's Adam Pascal. And we all know by now that I am a very big Adam Pascal person. And I just love that they all came out and they sang Seasons of Love. And I just, my heart was so full of love. And I was so glad that they were all there. All of them were there. All of them were there. All 7 of them. And I was like, and then more, you know, they had ensemble members as well, like Rodney Hicks and stuff, and I was like, it's my parents. I was just so happy that they were able to come out and honor Jonathan's legacy and just be there with the cast, and it was just so good. And it made me feel really, like, it left me on a positive note, even though I had a terrible time watching the entire thing. Anyway, final thoughts are that it was disappointing. I was disappointed. And you guys should definitely go see the tour because it's way better. Even the movie is better than that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, tap that like button. And if you want to see more, click subscribe to subscribe. Thank you for watching again, and I will see all you beautiful people